We got the trailer loaded up and ready to go. It's time for a road trip. We've made it to Nashville, Tennessee. We're at our destination, and he's got a lot of cars, but he's not here yet. We're still waiting on him. Said he's about 15 minutes away. We don't see the car we come to get, so maybe it's here inside. We don't know where it's at. We'll find out in a minute. It's been a long drive. We'll just wait longer, I guess. Okay, we finally made it back, and just like anything, when you go to look at what you assume is going to be your next project car, expectations are high and reality is kind of low. You get there, and we didn't get to film. It was a private garage, and this thing was inside. It's been kept inside. It's fairly nice, but it's not. It's got probably the best, worst engine GM ever made in it, which is, it's interesting, but not something I'm particularly interested in. It does have rally wheels on it. So I guess it's time to reveal and unveil this thing. Looking at it on Marketplace, it only showed pictures of the car in the paint booth. It was, it looked really nice and shiny, had a new paint job and all metal. So I get down there, they haven't really told me anything about it. I couldn't get, it was hard to get any information about the car. So I guess the only thing left to do is just reveal it and let you decide for yourself what it is we got. Well, this is the car. It's a 1978 Chevrolet Nova. And in the pictures, this paint was pristine and pretty and new. But when you get right down and look at it, there's still rust on the body panels. They just sprayed this car over whatever was there. There's a lot, you can feel it. You can feel the rust right through the paint. They painted the door handles. The hood doesn't fit right. We never got the hood shut. It has some kind of rally wheel on it. They painted the bumpers. The eyebrows and things are inside the trunk, I believe. You can see a little bit of the motor that's in it, the unusual motor. That's mud, I guess. But I don't know how they got these eyebrows off unless they just pulled them off, because these threads into that plastic. So I think they must have just pulled them off the car and stripped this part out. But they are painted. They painted to match the car. I just don't know how they got them off. You can see the rust. This car's probably been painted years. I think it's been painted. They said it was only painted last year and it still looked as good as it did when it was painted. This car, based on this shrinking and cracking and stuff on this paint, it's some kind of metallic. I don't know what this color is. It's not red. It might be red with gold metallic in it, but you can see, if you look closely, you can see that rust underneath the paint. So based on the paint that's on the tires, it's probably, it looks like S10 wheels is what those look like. It was probably, I don't know, they sprayed over primer on them. I don't know. The fenders are reasonably straight and there's no rust in them. I looked down inside of them. There's just no rust in these fenders and they're pretty slick. So that's, you know, the value in those, I had to repaint them if I use them. $600-700, and they're not all beat up here. I didn't see any dents, but they're pretty smooth. So somebody may have body worked them before they painted them, but they sure didn't do none on the sides. What I think's happened is they may have primered it, then waited a while, let it sit outside for a while, and then painted over the primer without sanding it, and it's got some kind of rust underneath it. Rockers are completely solid. I fiddled around with them. I got under the car, but you can see they've opened and closed this door a lot. It's all scratched up. Car has no interior. Doesn't have a key switch. No headliner. The doors are pretty good. This is seam sealer here that's all bubbled up. But I do need some good doors. My doors aren't much count. So could these be good donor doors? If they are, that's more a few $100. But you can see the paint where they didn't scuff it or nothing. Just came right off. Okay, what the door got. And these hinges. No door locks. I don't know what's in the car. The car is just loaded down with stuff. It's got slapper bars on the rear end. I guess them are probably, they look to me like S10 wheels or Caprice wheels or something like that. You see it again, you can see that rust underneath it, underneath the paint. All the window trim on the back is gone. The front windshield's busted. I didn't pay the asking price for this car. I was just going to walk away from it. We negotiated a little bit. He got down and they couldn't find the title either. So there's no title for this car. So there we are. We're stuck with a vehicle that, you know, I thought it was in such good shape. I was going to take all of the pieces on the car I've got, because I have no sheet metal here on my car, on the Disco Nova. There's no sheet metal here on the Disco Nova because it's all been fiberglass. But I can put my hand in here, and this is, let's see if we can get the camera in there. It's all metal up in there. And even down in these corners, this is a Southern car, so you know it's been undercoated. The undercoating's coming off, but it's metal underneath there. They didn't even sand the rust. They just sprayed right over it, and the rust is coming back. Surface rust. It feels like there might be filler here, but it's hard to say. It's hard to tell because it's smoother than the rest of the car. They've either sanded it down and it doesn't have a perfect lip, so I don't know. But I looked down in the quarters. I got way down in there. They're bubbling right there. On the other side, it's bubbling too. So there may be a light amount of filler right here. Looks to me like somebody's tried to wax it and the wax just stuck to the paint. There's a bubble right there where the paint's starting to come off. Yeah, this car's been painted longer than a year. This is where they took a grinder to this plastic. They ground right into this plastic and ground the paint off before they painted it. It's a no-no. That's all rusted where this tail panel is. It's not rusted bad, but it's rusted. The bumper's decent. Of course, it's painted, so it's useless to me. I'm not going to put a painted bumper on a car. At least not now, anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing up there where I throw my junk mail out, and we're going to start going through this and see what kind of treasures, and then I probably need to open this hood before I take it up there and try to get these hinges loosened up a little bit. I'm going to go get some WD-40 and we'll try that. let's talk about the engine that's in this car. By the end of the 80s, General Motors knew that the engine that they were running, the small block Chevy, the most popular engine in the world, was at the end of its life. They were needing to find something to replace it, something that was that would be just as easy to work on, a little more complicated, trying to fit more fuel management efficiency into the engine. They were already looking up the skirts of the LS design, but they were kind of keeping it secret. And they wanted, I guess when they were trying to go for something younger and leaner and stronger, they took the old small block, the ex-wife small block, and threw a bunch of money at it and said, here, go have a good time, get a makeover. So by the end of the 80s, the small block, that's just what they did. The engineers decided to do a makeover, give one final last big push to the small block pushrod engine and make it just something, go out with a bang. So they started working on the motor that we have that's in the car right now. Let's take a look at it. This is the General Motors LT1 engine. Now, I don't really want to call this engine a small block Chevy, because it doesn't really share anything with the small block Chevy. It's similar, looks similar. The oil pan looks similar, the balancer looks similar, but most of the similarities are gone, way gone by this time. There's no intake back there. There's no provision. I mean, no, a distributor. There's not even a provision for a distributor. This is a kind of a tune port style engine, but it has a very short runner, as opposed to the old traditional tune ports that we used to slap in everything, all these old hot rods. They stuck this motor in here. They were planning on making it a project car, and they were going to put this engine, come hell or high water, I guess they were going to fit this engine, this LT1, into this old Nova. And it's got this little, I don't know what that is, smog pump or something, this little pump down here. Looks like it might be an air conditioner. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't fit. It's right up against the frame, and you can't scoot the engine back any further. Look what a gap. It's probably sitting the head 8 inches too far, and without the distributor you could set it back even further, but they weren't able to do that, I guess, because I don't know what that is. It looks like an AC pump, but I can't tell. It does have a serpentine belt, and the belt is on it. You notice there's no belt on the water pump. There's not going to be a belt on the water pump, because these are mechanically driven off of the camshaft, which separates it immensely from the small block Chevy. These come out in Corvettes, Camaros. They made a better version in the 90s there. I guess in the mid 90s, they called it LT4. It was an updated version of this same engine. And in between there, they started putting the Lotus engine in the Corvette. And that Lotus engine is, you know, GM pulled a fast one on that one. Somehow, when they were developing the Lotus engine, and Mercury Marine, I think, actually built the engine. When they were developing that engine, somehow Ford got the idea that Chevrolet was going away from the pushrod engine and going to a dual overhead cam style motor with that Lotus engine. And so Ford completely changed direction and started making the overhead cam. I think it's called a Lincoln Mark 8 or something like that. They started putting in the overhead cam engine, started putting it in the Lincolns. And they were basing it because they thought Chevrolet, now there's some truth to this. It's a big rabbit hole you can go down. Chevrolet knew who the spies were in General Motors, and they made sure that those people that were feeding the information back to Ford were in on the Lotus project. So they were completely convinced 100% that Chevrolet was getting away from the pushrod engine. Now, if there's some Chevy guys out there that know about this, that were engineers that worked on this, maybe they can shed a little bit of light on it. But Ford now, you know, everything Ford has is those big elephant Gimangus. They make a lot of horsepower, but they got 2.5 miles of bicycle chains in them, and they're just a giant complete mess. They run good, but I don't want to work on one. And so that leads us back to this thing here, this LT1. It kind of came in between. Chevrolet all along knew they were going to the LS platform. which is LS block. Kind of shares a little bit with the Lotus block, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot of similarities between the LS and the Lotus. There's definitely none between this. This thing is just a, like I said in the beginning, it's the best, worst motor that GM made. A lot of people liked it. That had them, people that had this engine loved them. There's no distributor because your distributor is way down here behind the harmonic balancer. That's your distributor, and it's not called a distributor. It's called an OptiSpark, and I think it's made by Mitsubishi or somebody like that. And you got a completely, as I was saying before the battery ran down, that's your distributor back there behind the harmonic balancer. Underneath the water pump, that has a little seal that goes through the back of the water pump into the engine that drives, it's a cam drive type deal that drives this water pump. These leak, and when these leak, they leak down into your OptiSpark, and they cause misfires and ruin your ignition system. But there's ways around this. You can pull all this off and put a plug where this OptiSpark goes through the camshaft, and you can put a conventional style intake on this, and you can find them that will fit. There's kind of some in-between years that GM made some weird intakes that you can actually make fit this. And they got a distributor hole, and underneath this intake there's a little drive that drives the oil pump, and you can pull that drive out and put a distributor right down in there and drive the oil pump off the distributor and run spark plug wars with a regular HEI ignition on this thing and put a carburetor on it and make it just run and perform just like a regular small block Chevy. And I'm going to say again, you can hate if you want to, this is not a small block Chevy, because it's just not. It's a freak, it's a beast, it's a ex-wife that got a makeover to look good just before they got divorced anyway and went to the LS motor. But those who have these motors love them. People race these motors, they fix them up with carburetors and race them. MSD made a little bit of support. They didn't make a lot of these. I don't think this is a Camaro or Corvette engine. I believe the guys told me this come out of an Impala or whatever that other big giant Chevrolet car is. This probably has iron heads. I can't tell from looking at it. They do look rusty. So it's probably got iron heads. It doesn't have the right exhaust to be a Camaro or Corvette. Doesn't even look right up here. So this is probably out of just a conventional car. A Caprice, I think, is what they said this come out of. A Caprice or an Impala, I'm not sure. But it's I don't know. They had a lot of horsepower. They were one of the most powerful V8s that Chevrolet made, believe it or not. I think you could get in the Corvette, I'm not sure if it's this one, the LT4, you get like 330 horsepower. And you get right around 300 horsepower with, I guess, this engine. 295, 300 horsepower. And I may be wrong, somebody can correct me on it. I notice it does have a transmission in it. I'm curious what kind of transmission they've got slapped on the back of this thing. That looks like a later model dipstick. So this could have a 4-speed in it. I looked around to see if I could find a computer. I found this thing. Looks like it's just a fuse block. And there's all kinds of wires hanging out. It looks like they pulled the whole harness and all. But then you get over here and everything is just cut. So that looks like where it went through the firewall or something. I can't see me getting this thing running. Here's your fuel lines. They're just hanging here. I'm not going to fool with this car. This engine. And I'm probably not going to fix this car. I had plans on fixing it up. Don't think I'm going to. I can't get a title for it. I probably could if I wanted to, I guess. Maybe. But it's got a lot of good sheet metal. This hood's no count. This hood's all rotten. But I did get the hinges lubed up where they open and close. Just doesn't sit right. Right now we're going to take it up here behind one of my buildings where I throw all my scrap metal and try to separate the wheat from the chaff on this, I guess. See what's good in there, see what's in the trunk, do a treasure hunt. Let's go. Now we've got it out here where the junk goes. This is crap I've collected from jobs. And this is trash. I'm just going to clean what junk I think is metal, and this is our sheet metal pile where all the dead parts go. Looks like springs. Dead batteries. Eventually we'll get a pile and we'll haul it to the scrapper. Over here is where we keep all of our salvageable parts. Tires, wheels, all kinds of different stuff. There's some performance stuff in here. Old Nova trunk lid. What's crazy, this come off a Nova and it says Eldorado. Does anybody know of them ever putting Eldorado badges on a Nova? I'm curious. I'd like to know. But it looks like I just missed this rear end. That's a late model Camaro or Firebird rear end, and the engine is out of a, they come out some of those same years. So I wonder, we got enough late model stuff. I definitely want to use that rear end one of these days. I wonder what rear end is under this car. Let's get down here and look. It looks like it's a 10-bolt. Brake lines are laying everywhere. This thing's just been cobbled. Look at them daggone ladder bars, are crazy. There's a shock over there laying, rubbing against the tire. And it's a 10-bolt rear end, so probably a 8.2 or 8.5, something like that. That looks like Bondo. I know this is metal up here because you can see it. Metal, all metal here. It's a pretty solid car. I hate to chop it up, but you know, might possibly, we'll see what the sheet metal looks like when we get it apart. We might back half this car, cut it somewhere up there and just put the back end on the Disco Nova if it's worth it. If underneath the seats, you can't get the underneath where the seats goes on these cars, you can't get that pan. You can only get the floor pans. They only come back so far. So let's open up. Well, that door don't shut good, and it's hitting. Huh? But it's hitting cause the tire's flat. Yeah. Maybe if I air that up, it'll miss. Let's see when we get in the other side. Yeah, boy, look what a mess. Lots of treasures. Are they worth anything? Don't know what this is. A motor mount that's broken, or a transmission mount, sorry. There's a Nova tail light, but it is busted. Pretty good shape outside though. Let's get up here. No springs on these doors. Here's a set of, oh, them's hot. Set of springs, hood springs that he gave me because he said those weren't no count on the car that I had there. Like they just unmasked it and threw the paper inside. There's another one of these. I don't know what that is. Looks like for a turn signal or something. Marker light maybe? Bumper light. Electric fans off of a late model GM of some kind. Probably come out of the same Caprice thing that motor come out of. No glove box, it's all gone. This is probably the, I don't know what this is. Probably what came out of that car that the motor come from. It's a AC condenser. Need that. This is a GM radiator. It doesn't look like it's busted. There's the dash. Huh. Let me get organized here and we'll come back. Yeah. This is appears to be an air shock. A new one. And my Nova does have air shocks. And this is air shock installation. And this is a sport shock or something. It's just got helper springs on it. Looks like somebody was going to spend some money on this. Battery cable. Matching air shock. Still new. I can't do this one-handed. I used a New Jersey trunk key there to get the trunk open, and it got no latch in it. And yet, there is another radiator. I don't know, I've got like 4 radiators out of this thing. I'm going to tell you right now, that winch, if I haven't said it already, was worth the price of the trailer. We'll just zip this thing right up on here. See what's in here. Another tail light, and it's all melty. Like somebody melted it. Here's one of the B-pillar fairings. That one looks, that's better shape than mine actually. It's pretty nice. Step trim that somebody has painted black. Right over to the side. This is a purge tank. Probably to the donor car. Here's the grill, and it's busted, of course. I haven't found one yet that wasn't. I think there's another one in here somewhere, I believe. That's a shame. Here's the trim, the windshield trim. Someone's also painted black. We get this radiator here and we'll keep going. Check the radiator out. I thought that other one was out of the donor car, but this one is. Looks like a good rad, and it's got fans and everything on it. So that's nice. I don't know if I was recording or not a minute ago. I think I was taking pictures, but here's the fan and radiator that come out of it. Looks like it's in good shape. It's probably going to use it to go to this motor, but I don't think it'll fit down in there, honestly. Looks like there's some rock right over there in the trunk. A little bit around this drain here. I don't guess that's rod. I guess that's just where the, yeah, it's a little rock right there. Rod here, right there. It just in the spare tire wheel. Looks like to me. It's got 2 radiator covers, looks like. I don't know what that is up there. Here's one of the headlight surrounds, and it's busted. Got a crack in it. One of the headlights. It's a Sylvania Performance. Busted tail light. Here's the worst thing about this car, I think, is around here. It's all flat metal that you could replace easily. And this thing, this filler panel, I don't think there's no fixing this. You'd have to sand it just about all the way through to get those grinder marks out. There's one of the eyebrows, both pieces. Oh, there's the other eyebrow, both pieces. That goes on the front of the fenders. I'm sorry, I'm being clear on that. I don't know what this is. Leaf spring pocket or something. And more vice grips. I don't know if these is Irwin or not, but they're vice grips. Bondo spreader. Weed. I think that's about it in the trunk. Mostly trash. I need to get in that passenger side. I might have to air the tire up. We'll see what happens. Well, here's another look with everything out of it. Out of the inside. We done looked at the trunk. There's a few little holes in the trunk. Surface rust. This is the tray that you can't get back here underneath the seat. You can get the floorboards. You can use like, I think you can use like 68 to 74 floor pans in this, but they don't include this rear pan that goes under the seat because this car is just a little longer. This piece right here and the long windows makes this car longer in the back seat, so that's the part you can't buy. So no rust. There's surface rust, but it's just surface rust. A lot of money, a whole bag full of money in here. I picked the bag up and the bottom fell out of it. I don't know what these are, but I did find the little clips that I needed to put my fenders on finally that I've been trying to order. I can't never find the right one. I keep getting metric stuff. So I guess somebody was saving for a rainy day. There's a few dollars worth of change there. That's worth it. A little more change up there, more change on the other side. The top's got a little bit of rust up there, and a little bit of rust around the back window, but it's not completely destroyed. I'd say all that rust is there from, yeah, there's some rust back here, not rusted through. This has all been, well, this thing in no way is perfect, but mine's all rotted out right here in this spot. If you get this, they painted over the rubber. Get the rubber off, it's good. It's good under there, and this is where they rot out at. And this one will rot out in a little while if we don't move it on to somebody else. I guess it looked like it was being here, but I don't think it is. But the bumpers are great other than being painted. The body, it's got a little bit of bowling right there, so there's bound to be a skin of body filler there at one time, but what you can feel, there's nothing behind it. It's metal. This might be filler right here, just a little. That's a little chewy right there, but probably got filler over top of that. Best way to tell is put my camera down in there and look, but I can't reach in there. I get a lot. Hang on. Let's see what's down in there. I can't see it. You guys can. I can't see what's there, but I'll look at it when I edit it. But for what it is, it's pretty nice. But I rounded up all kinds of tools. More tools on this side, big clamp. Another one of them Husky jacks, and I tried one of them out. I couldn't get this door open, so I had to air this tar up, and I went ahead and jacked the car up with the jack while I was airing it up. So that's cool, the little ball jacks work. So there's two of them. Bonus, this has been fixed with a rubber glove. What? All right. I guess it's supper time. So I'll be back in a second. Here's our haul. This is all tools. Some sanding blocks. This one's kind of stiff. It probably ain't gonna be worth nothing. Little Bondo spreader, it ain't much. Don't know about the radiator, we'll probably pressure test it. Set of headers, drive shaft probably for the car. Original drive shaft. That is a inner fenders. They're not much, but they're not rotted plumb off. Got two bottle jacks, a clamp, tons of other parts inside, some shocks. I figured out what that aluminium piece I picked up was. It was a fuel rail for one of these cars. Doesn't look like it's the fuel rail for this car, but it is one of the fuel rails. So apparently they've had a couple of these. And I'm trying to look at this thing and see. I am 99% sure those are cast iron heads, so this is probably out of one of the sedans. The bolts aren't even bolted. There's no exhaust. Doesn't look like you can even get exhaust on it. But it's got all the brakes. I haven't tried to brake, see if they work. I'm curious about that transmission. See if I can see under there. About to lose my voice tonight. Been hoarse for a couple of days. I can see the cross member, and I guess it's bolted in. There's a drive shaft in it. They've got a drive shaft in this car. This car was ready to get on the road, I guess. I can't hardly see that pan. I need to see if it's got a corner lopped off of it. Get on the other side. And those jacks do work. I tried them. Get down here where we can see. I can't see even less over here. It's a square pan. So what has a square pan? There's a transmission part right there. That's a shifter pawl that holds the shifter. It's broke. You know, we did get a grill out of something and a radiator with two radiators with two sets of fans. So it may be good, it may be not. Who knows? I don't even know what to go to. But we got plenty of tools. Leave that handle here. Put this in the truck. Person always needs a jack, a good jack. Oh, I'm losing it. Man, I've got to get in out of the weather. I'm sweating like the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark, and it's fixing to rain. So I got to get in some air conditioning, get this truck pulled back down to the garage. I'm going to leave this. I've got a critter after me. I don't know what that is. It's a monster. Well, after a brief battle with some kind of biting pterodactyl, I got away from that thing. I think maybe it's on my back. But anyway, we talked about this car, and I don't want to cut it up. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't have a title. I need a bunch of parts off of it. The doors, the floors. I hate to cut this thing up, and the floors and the quarters and everything, all solid. The rocker panels are good. The fenders are good. Honestly, all I'll probably use will be the doors. The trunk lid's halfway decent. I might use the trunk lid. My trunk lid's in pretty bad shape. And I'll probably, there's that monster again. What the? That's a giant fly. And it's like it's got it could gnaw right through somebody. But I'll probably use the rails that goes around the weather stripping around the trunk, cut all that out if I cut it up. But there's still hope for this car yet. I will put the price in the description. Honestly, it needs painted. It looks awful. Somebody needs to just take this body and if they got a good car, switch it over to this and make an awesome vehicle. I just don't want to do that because I'd have to clip the front of it. So if you're interested, I'll put my email and a price, and the price won't be negotiable. If you want the car, that'll be the price, and that'll be it. There won't be no trading or anything like that. That's if anybody just wants looks like a decent car, and whatever came with it, I'll send with it. If it's close, I'll deliver it, but for a small price. But it has to be close. So if I don't hear from nobody in the next month or so, this thing will probably this winter go on the chopping block. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for staying with me this far. And please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm almost to 1,000. I'm like 220 away, and I need that 1,000. I can put more videos out when I get to that 1,000 mark, because I'll start getting paid, get monetized, then we can buy more junk. But thanks for hanging out, guys. Stay clean, everybody.